Episode 5. The Woman Under the Lake Asterisk in the winter of 2019. I rented a small lakeside cabin in Oregon, just outside a little town called Hemlock Bend. I was trying to finish my thesis in solitude. Cabin had no Wi-Fi, just electricity, a fireplace, and a back deck that looked out onto Lake Del Mar, which was half frozen when I arrived. Asterisk, it was beautiful. Tree-covered hills. Locals told me not to go near the center of the lake even when it was frozen. Asterisk, the lake's not empty. The old woman at the gas station had said, it remembers things. I didn't ask what that meant. The first night was uneventful. I wrote by the fire and fell asleep to the sound of wind through the pines. Asterisk, the second night, I saw a woman standing on the lake. Asterisk, at first, I thought it was an illusion. Snow? A shadow. Asterisk, but she was too solid. Dressed in a long, pale gown, hair black and hanging low over her shoulders. She wasn't walking or skating, just standing and facing the cabin. Asterisk, by the time I opened the door to get a better look, she was gone. Asterisk, the next morning. I looked for tracks. Nothing, not even my own, from the night before. Asterisk, that evening, as snow began to fall, I heard scraping from the back deck. I turned on the porch light. No one. Asterisk, but on the wood planks etched in. Long, wet streaks were what looked like fingertip marks dragging from the railing to the door. Asterisk, that night I didn't sleep. Asterisk, at exactly 3:17 a.m. Every light inside the cabin went out. I got up with a flashlight, checked the breakers. Nothing seemed wrong. That's when I heard it breathing inside the cabin. Asterisk, it was slow, labored, not mine. Asterisk, I stood frozen in the hallway, scanning each room. Then my flashlight caught a handprint on the inside of the kitchen window. Asterisk, long fingers. Too long. Asterisk, the breath was gone. The sound vanished, but my body felt like I was being watched through every wall. Asterisk, the last night I planned to leave at dawn. Asterisk, but I woke up at 4 a.m. to the sound of weeping. It was coming from the lake. I stepped onto the back porch, snow falling, ice groaning. She was back. The woman stood under the ice, face pressed to the surface from below, eyes wide open, mouth stretched unnaturally. Her hands were splayed out as if she'd been clawing for air. Then she moved. She began, crawling beneath the ice toward me, slow and jerking like a marionette. I ran. Asterisk, I didn't take anything. I just left. Drove straight through the morning fog, heart thudding like it was trying to escape me. Asterisk, I told a ranger later, who laughed. Asterisk, there's no cabin on Lake Del Mar, he said. Not since the accident. Asterisk, what accident? I asked. Asterisk, he paused. A woman drowned about 10 years ago. Her husband said she sleepwalked onto the frozen lake and fell through. Asterisk, when I asked for her name. He didn't answer, but I know her face. I still see her when I sleep. Episode 6. The Screaming Pines. Asterisk, in the fall of 2020. I took a job as a wildlife photographer for a conservation magazine. They sent me to a remote region of northern Montana, near the edge of Glacier National Park. The assignment was to spend 4 nights in the Wexler Pine Forest, tracking the migration of wolves through recently reclaimed land. Asterisk, I was alone. The cabin they arranged was small, old, and built by fire watchers back in the 60s. No Wi-Fi. Satellite phone only for emergencies. Just me, the forest, and silence, or so I thought. The first 2 days were normal. The forest was gorgeous, endless. Rows of narrow pine trees, each rising like a cathedral spire. The quiet was thick, even muffled. I didn't hear birds, no wind. Asterisk, and at night, I began to notice something. Strange, the trees screamed. It started around midnight. Asterisk, at first. I thought it was wind whistling through the branches, but it didn't sound like wind. It sounded human, high-pitched, sharp, like a woman's scream stretched too long. Coming from deep in the woods. The next night, it happened again, but this time, the scream moved. First distant, then closer, then just outside the cabin. I stood frozen. Was many asterisk overlapping. Dozens of them, all around me. Asterisk, I shut the windows, locked the doors, slept with the fire poker by my bed. Asterisk, day 3, I went deeper into the forest, following a trail of oddly broken branches. That's when I found the circle. Asterisk, a clearing, perfectly round. Inside, 12 pine trees were stripped of all their bark, but only from 10 feet upward, like something had climbed them, all of them, once. Asterisk, in the center was a small mound of dirt, and on top of it a camera. Like mine, old, weather-worn. I brought it back at night. The screaming started again. Asterisk, but this time there were footsteps on the porch, heavy creaking. I didn't dare move. Didn't look through the window, just held my breath. Asterisk, then, a whisper. Right by my ear. Asterisk, we remember your face. Asterisk, I turned. No one, but the fire had gone out. Asterisk, and outside, something was pressing against the walls of the cabin, like hands. From every direction, I survived the night. In the morning, I packed to leave. As I stepped out, the forest was completely still. Not a sound. That's when I noticed the trees. They were all leaning. Asterisk, every pine bent toward the cabin. As if watching, I ran. I made it out. Drove 10 miles before I had enough signal to call for help. Asterisk, when I showed the photos I had taken of the trees, of the clearing, nothing came out. Asterisk, all black. Every single one, except one photo. In it, I stood by the window of the cabin. Asterisk, and behind me, just outside, 12 figures, pale and thin, faces stretched, mouths wide open, screaming in silence. I never turned around. But now when I close my eyes, I hear them still screaming. Episode 7, the motel room that wasn't there in April 2021. I was driving cross-country from Colorado to California after a family emergency. It was late, I was exhausted, and somewhere outside Ely, Nevada, I decided to pull off at a cheap roadside motel. A flickering neon sign said, "Desert Moon in vacancy." The parking lot was empty, but the lobby lights were on. An older man at the desk didn't say much, just slid me a key and said, "Room 6, far end, asterisk, no receipt, no ID check." Asterisk, room 6 was at the edge of the long one-story strip. It looked old but clean. I remember the door was dented at the bottom, like it had been kicked. Hard dot asterisk inside. It smelled like cigarettes and something faintly sweet. Too sweet, almost chemical. I tossed my bags down and collapsed onto the bed, without even changing clothes. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up to knocking. Slow, repetitive, coming from the inside of the bathroom door. Asterisk. I stared at it, heart pounding. I hadn't used the bathroom. I hadn't opened it. The door was shut tight. Then I heard it again. Knock, 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 asterisk. I got up, crept to the door, hand shaking, and opened it. No one inside. But the mirror was fogged up like someone had just showered. And on the mirror, in dripping streaks, were the words, "Room 6 isn't real." Asterisk. I backed out, slammed the door, and turned on every light. Asterisk. That's when I noticed the room had no phone, no alarm clock, no Bible in the drawer. Even the window looked fake. I tapped on it. I yanked. Nothing. And then the TV turned on by itself. It showed a live feed of the room I was in, but from the ceiling, as if someone had mounted a hidden camera. Asterisk. I stared up. Nothing visible. Asterisk. But on the screen, I watched myself. Move, turn, look directly into the camera, and smile. I didn't smile. I backed into the corner. The lights flickered. Asterisk on the TV, the me in the feed tilted its head unnaturally, raised its hand and pointed to the bathroom door again. Asterisk suddenly. The knocking returned, only faster. Knock dash knock dash knock dash knock dash knock dash knock. Asterisk. I grabbed my keys. No one at the desk. No sign of the man who checked me in. I got in my car and drove straight until daylight the next day. I called the local sheriff to report what happened. Asterisk. He was silent for a moment and then said, "Son, there is no desert moon in near Ely. It burned down in 1992. Whole west wing including room 6 collapsed. A family of 3 died in that room." I checked my phone. No photos. No GPS history. No record that I was ever in Nevada that night. Asterisk. Except one blurry, corrupted video file. Just 11 seconds long. Asterisk. A grainy, low-light recording of a man sleeping on a motel bed. Me. Watching